Hey there guys, this is Chauncey J. Kent, and welcome to another episode of Minecraft Academy, where I get to teach you how to play Minecraft. Now, let's go ahead and just hop in the world here, and if you remember last time we talked about world creation and why you would want to play Minecraft at all, and this is the world that we generated from that using the seed Minecraft Academy. And of course my keyboard's going to be laggy for this, so just don't mind that. Today we are actually going to talk about what you should do first once you log into your Minecraft world. And it's probably not what you're going to think. Basically you just want to stand still, hit escape, and go to options to get your game set up, because I'm assuming that you haven't touched anything at all. So we're just going to go through all the different settings here real quick, kind of show you what everything is, where everything is, and some good options to go with as far as like what you would want to have set up so that your game runs well on your machine and you have a really good experience with it. Now this is field of view, and currently it's set to normal. I usually don't mess with that. You can if you want. You can kind of pull back. You can kind of push it way forward. Generally, it's good to just leave it on normal. Pretty much everyone leaves it on normal. So, I mean, unless you're trying to do something different, I would just leave it alone. You do have your game difficulty. There's normal, there's hard, peaceful, and easy. Now, in peaceful, no monsters will spawn at all, and the other ones get progressively more spawns and better AI associated with the monsters and all of that. And if you're feeling particularly saucy, you have this little padlock here. You can set a difficulty at a certain level, and then you can actually lock it so that you can't change it once it's set. That's a good thing to do. Like if you're trying to be cocky, like I am in my LP, and I've got it set on hard, and I actually have it locked on hard. That way you guys know that there's no way for me to go in and like change it to peaceful while I'm doing stuff off camera and all of that. So next up we have skin customization. Let's take a look at that. Capes you get from actually going to like Minecon. So don't want to worry about that, but you can put on a jacket, your sleeves, your pants, hats, and all of that. So that's pretty self-explanatory. You can shut them on or off, not a big deal. The super secret settings are going to just like change the way the game looks and do different effects and flip it upside down, and it's really just like a fun thing. You'll click on it and it'll change stuff, and I don't want to mess everything up and spend like 10 minutes scrolling through all the super secret settings to get back to just normal Minecraft, so we're going to leave that alone. But it's fun to play around with if you decide you want to do that, and you can, if you just want to try it. Of course, we have music and sound. It's pretty self-explanatory. You have your master volume, which is going to control everything. The background music, the sound coming from jukeboxes and note blocks, sound placing and breaking blocks. This is the weather, like if there's a thunderstorm, just how loud the thunder is going to be. You have your hostile creatures, which I should actually probably turn up so I can hear creepers a little bit better. You have friendly creatures, which actually includes your own footsteps. So if you get used, that's why I have it turned all the way up. But like if you get used to hearing that at a certain volume, it's weird to turn it down. So if you are ever going to turn this down, just so you don't hear chickens and cows and stuff quite as loudly, do it when you first start playing, so you don't get used to the sound of your own footsteps being quite so loud. Players, this is for other players, like if you're in multiplayer and stuff. And then ambient environment is just some of the other noises that happen, like the flowing water or the cave sounds and that kind of stuff. So there's that. Broadcast settings is if you're doing Twitch streaming, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that more than likely you don't need to know about. And if you are doing Twitch streaming, honestly, I would recommend using OBS over the streaming stuff in Minecraft, just because it's going to give you more options, it's going to do a little bit better job, and yeah, it's just a little bit easier to work with. Minecraft 1 always has problems, so not necessarily Mojang's fault, just sort of how it goes. Next up, and probably most importantly for you, and where we're going to sit through most of this, is video settings. Here is where you're going to have a bunch of different options to kind of make your game run a little bit faster. You have graphics. You can do fast or fancy. I keep it on fast. It does mean that you're not going to be able to see through leaf blocks and things like that. But it's not a big deal, and it does help your game run a little bit faster. Smooth lighting. You can do minimum, maximum, or off. Now, off is going to give you like a different light level on every block, emitting from different light sources, and it doesn't look great. If you do minimum, you at least get a smooth lighting thing, and it basically just averages the light, even though it's like level 7 on one block, level 6 on another. It's gonna sort of blend them together so it doesn't look super blocky. Now, there are cases when you'd want to have that off. For instance, if you're making an adventure map and you need to know what the specific light levels on each block are, it's good to have that off. But otherwise, it's just going to look a lot nicer with it on. And minimum is going to run a little bit more smoothly than maximum, so it's a good thing to turn down if you're trying to get a few more frames per second. 3D anaglyph is it basically just sets up the screen so that you can play with 3D glasses, like the old red and blue ones. So yeah, if you don't have those and you don't want to play with them, then off is the way to go. GUI scale is just your GUI or GUI, graphical user interface is what that's going to stand for. This is really a personal preference. It's just your taskbar and stuff down at the bottom will change size. Like you can see, now I go large, but that's just me. You guys can do whatever you want. Clouds you can turn on or off. I guess they did get redone in 1.8, so they're a little more graphics intensive than they used to be. I generally play like Amplified or Mountain Madness or like Skyblock, or just I build really, really high up into the sky limit, so clouds for me are just kind of in the way typically, so I always shut them off. It saves a little bit of frame rates, and you don't have to have clouds like flying through your buildings, which looks a little weird. But you can play with them on if you choose to do that. Full screen is something I usually keep off. You can try it on. Some people find that having it set to full screen helps with the frame rates a little bit. It doesn't generally help with mine, but it could help with yours. So if you need a little bit more performance, just try it on full screen and see if it works for you. Map levels is basically the level to which the game is going to blur things in the distance. And the higher this is, the more it's going to do that, and so the better it's okay. The higher the map levels are, the more detailed things will be in the distance. So if you pull this down, it's going to start blurring things sooner, and it's going to increase your performance like a little bit. For most people, this isn't going to affect things enough to even worry about, so generally okay to just leave it alone. But that's up to you guys. VBOS is a cool new thing that they've added for the game to kind of take the load off of the CPU. When you have it on, it's actually going to take a lot of the things that the game needs to process, especially the graphics information, and actually put that on the graphics card instead of the CPU. And typically in Java runtime, the CPU is doing most of the work, and then like the graphics cards do a little bit here and there, but not as much as they normally would. This actually puts the full graphics load on the graphics cards instead of on the CPU. Now I have it on because I have a dual graphics card set up in my computer, and I'm glad to be able to use that to make the game run a little bit faster. If you don't have that great a graphics card, like maybe you're on a laptop or something, you might want to keep this off, just so your processor is actually doing most of the work, because it ends up being better or something. I don't know. It's worth trying. If you find that it works for you, great. If it doesn't, then just shut it back off, and no big deal. Now, the big thing that's going to hit your frames per second is your render distance. You can take this all the way out to 32 chunks, or all the way down to just 2 chunks. For reference, a chunk is a 16 block by 16 block square, and the game will render. It sort of renders itself in those blocks. So right now I have it set to 8 chunks. That's actually more for my single player world. It's a Mountain Madness thing. So I have a lot of exposed blocks for the game to render, and pulling it back to 8 makes sure that it's not unbearably laggy when I'm looking around and loading new areas and everything. On a world like the one that we're playing on now, the Minecraft Academy world, you could probably take this a lot further up. Just depends on your computer, how many blocks you're trying to get the game to load at one time. So you'll just want to play around with it, see kind of where you're at with that. Most people will play around 10 chunks. It's fairly average. Sometimes you need more, sometimes you need less. Like I said, I have mine set on 8, and I have a pretty beast computer, so it just depends on your situation and what you're trying to do. Max frame rates. Now, a lot of people say to go ahead and just put that up to unlimited. What that is going to do is it basically tells your computer to try and get the highest number of frame rates that it possibly can at all times. So when you're watching a YouTube video and someone's playing Minecraft, and you see them get close to an area that's unloaded, and it just stays unloaded basically until they actually get there, that's because their game is trying to get an unlimited, basically as many frames as it can in the already loaded sections, and it hasn't gotten to loading the other stuff yet. If you're having trouble with that, it doesn't hurt to pull this back to something more reasonable. I'm actually going to jack mine up to 120. Just because I had it set at 60 because that's going to be the maximum frame rate that I would record and edit in at this point. However, if you do have it a little bit higher, it allows the computer and the game overall to go all the way up here, and if it does have a drop, like a spike downwards, the higher that number, the higher your max frame rate is, the less it's not going to get as close to 0 frames per second. You have like a little bit of a buffer there, if that makes sense. You can try it on unlimited. Most people don't have a problem with it, so it's worth checking out. I personally just set it at like 60 or 120, and that works for me, and I don't have unloaded chunk problems really, so there's that. View bobbing obviously is just the camera bobs a little bit while you're moving. You can turn that off, and then the camera doesn't bob at all while you're moving. So it just depends on whether you find that irritating or realistic. Brightness is fairly obvious. You can set it for bright, you can set it for moody, I think is the other end of the spectrum. Yeah. I just play it bright. I have the window directly behind me, so the sun shines in, and it's good to have it set on bright so it don't get that weird reflection thing. Although this is an LCD, so I guess that doesn't matter now. But yeah, that's just the way I play it. Particles. These are things like the smoke coming up off of torches, or off of like a fire, or the little purple particles coming from Enderman and nether portals, or of course like water dripping or lava dripping through a block. If you go maximum, you can see, or all particles, it's going to show you all of that in their full detail. Decreased is going to still show particles, just not to their maximum detail, and minimal is going to pull them all the way back. So you won't see some of them, like the water and lava dripping through a block is going to be turned off, and basically it only has on the particles that you really need to play the game. So that's there. It can increase your frame rates to turn them off or turn them down. I'm doing decrease just to get a couple extra frames per second on my single player world. So like I said, it's a lot for the computer to load, but it looks so nice. So there's that. VSync actually slows your game down to match the refresh rate of your monitor. In most cases, that's going to be bad for the performance of your game. So generally, you just want to go off with that. It's not worth turning on. I mean, you can try it, but pretty much guaranteed that is going to hurt your performance. Alternate blocks, don't really have a great explanation for that. I just keep it on, and it tends to be okay. So honestly, I wouldn't worry about that. It's not really going to affect your performance at all. And of course, you have entity shadows, which I keep on for realism. You can shut them off and get a couple extra frames per second. Not a big deal. Of course, we have controls. This is just going to list all of the different buttons and whatever, and what they do. And so you can see there's a few different options. Not a super complicated control system. You can increase sensitivity. I have done that just because it makes it a little easier for me. Oh no. That was on 25, right? There, okay. You can invert the mouse if you're more accustomed to that, or if you have a touch screen, you can turn that on, which is always awesome. But this lets you reprogram what buttons do you want if you wanted to, or like if you have a mouse that has extra buttons that are programmable, you can set that up so they do different things. If you wanted to do that, and you would do that here. Let's see, we've got language, which pretty obviously just choose your language. There's a bunch to choose from. Most people go with English. If you're watching this video, you're probably using English, but there are other options. There's a lot of other options, as you can see. So yeah, and there's some fun stuff in here. I think pirate is still an option. I don't know. Yeah, pirate speak. There it is. See? So that's a fun one, but you know, it's just something for fun, or if you need to do it differently. You have your chat settings. It shows the chat window, and you can have the different color text for different players and stuff. This is mostly for if you're on a multiplayer server. If you're just doing single player, it doesn't really matter, and for the most part, like, there's no performance differences here. This is all preference stuff, so generally I just leave it alone. But it is what it is. You can also change the debug screen, so it gives you less information. So it just gives you like the stuff you really, really need and is less in the way. I just leave that as it is, though. And of course, you have your resource packs. I just have the default Minecraft in mind, but if you are doing other stuff, like if you're having really bad performance issues and you have like an 8-bit resource pack, or like you have a favorite that is that's been updated and works with 1.8, those will show up under available resource packs, and you just click on it and click done, and it applies it for you, and that's all you have to do with that. And of course, you have snooper settings. This is just a list of all the information that Mojang is collecting from your game as you play, so that you can see they're not stealing anything that like is really super important for you. They just kind of want to know how your computer interacts with, like, what kind of hardware it has, what kind of software you're using, and how it all interacts with the game, so that they can make improvements and bug fixes and all of that. If you're still not comfortable with that, though, you can toggle this off. It's just right down here. You click it once, it'll change to off. You click done, and you're all set. They won't bother collecting information from you. I leave it on because they're not collecting anything I personally care for them to not know, so it doesn't matter to me, and it doesn't really hurt your performance at all to keep it on, so it's just worth leaving on so that they can make improvements to the game still. And yeah, so that's all of your settings. So once you have all that set up, you should be pretty much good to go. You do have other options here. Achievements will kind of list all the different stuff, and is a good guide for getting started. Like this one is just opening your inventory. That's pretty easy, getting wood, benchmarking. So basically you open your inventory, you go find wood, you make a workbench, and then it just kind of spreads out from there, but it sort of gets you started and tells you where you need to go initially. Open to LAN is open to local area network. Basically this lets people play on the world you're currently in, who are also connected to the same router that you're connected to, or your local area network. So that's pretty cool if you want to do like a home server kind of thing. That's the way to do that. Statistics just shows you all the different stuff you've got going on. Games quit, minutes played. 1.42 million minutes played. Awesome. And since last death, yeah. Oh no. Oh, I see. This is specific to this world. Never mind. So that would be 1.42 minutes played. Awesome. See, I'm great at this. Yeah, just all right. Distance walked, not very far. So there's not going to be a whole lot of statistics here, but there's all kinds of stuff. Jumps. I don't remember doing 5 jumps in this world. Anyway. And then you've got general, you've got blocks, you've got items, you've got mobs, and those aren't open yet because we haven't done anything with any of those, but you get the idea. And of course you have your normal save and quit if you are ready to leave the game. So when you're playing and you decide you're done, you hit escape, you hit save and quit to title, and you're back to the title screen, and that's it. So yeah, there's all the settings for you. That should get you started with that. Now we'll head back to the game, and we will go ahead and earn a couple of our first achievements here, just so you kind of know where to actually start with the gameplay aspect of it. First thing you want to do is, of course, open your inventory. That gets you the first one, taking inventory, and then you're then you're going to want to start getting some resources. That basically means grabbing a tree. Oh, bunnies! Hi, bunnies. We might come back for you. Look at the baby bunny. Alright, so. Sorry. They're adorable. It's a new thing in 1.8, so. Basically, you don't have any tools to start with, so you're actually going to be gathering resources with just your fist. Fist of Fury here. So you hold down your left mouse button, and it's going to do the punch animation, and you'll see the block kind of breaking as you're doing that. And eventually, when it's taken enough damage, it will break. Now, if you only punch it a little bit, and then you let go of the button, it won't break and you'll have to start over. So, it's good to just kind of hold it, especially on more durable blocks. Now, what I'm looking for here is a sapling or maybe an apple. This is an oak tree. These and dark oaks will drop apples, which is it's not a super amazing food source, but it'll get you started, and it's good for some other things as well. So, of course my mouse is going to stop working. Come on. There it is. Sorry about that. Alright, so when you're ready to gather your wood, you target your block, you hold down your left mouse button, see how the block's sort of breaking, then it pops out and you've got wood. And you basically do the same thing. And of course, most of the blocks in Minecraft do not obey gravity. They laugh in the face of it, so blocks will float in midair if you just sort of leave them there. And you can see some of that is happening right there as well. Okay, so now that gets you your first resources. Generally, you want to replant trees when you cut them down, just so you'll have more wood later. Sometimes you just want to like clear an area out, and that's okay, and you can just sort of like clear cut. But in this case, we do want to go ahead and replant it just so we keep the landscaping looking nice, and we'll have more wood whenever we need it. Now that does use our last sapling, but that's kind of what the saplings are for, you know, is actually planting, and that's really one of the only things you can actually do with them. You can use them for furnace fuel as well, but they're not a great furnace fuel, and we'll get to that later. Okay, so last but not least for today, we've got our wood. If you put that in your crafting inventory here, you see that it will craft down into planks. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. Now if you click once, it'll do the operation once, so click the wood logs once, I get 4 planks from that. If I do it again, get another one of that. Now if you hold down shift and click it, it does all of them for you automatically and tosses them down in your inventory in a pile that you already started, or starts a new pile on the first available either hotbar space, or if those are all full, inventory space, which would start right here. And we're going to use 4 planks to make a workbench. And that will get us started. So I'll go back to where we initially spawned, just to, or close to it anyway, for placing this. And then this is actually an expanded crafting area. And yeah, we'll set up in this little trench here. And you right click on it, and you can see you have a little bit bigger crafting window, and this lets you make more complex items. And we'll get into crafting and some other stuff in the next episode. But yeah, that should kind of get you started. There are a lot of crafting recipes. You don't have to memorize them all, of course. I have most of them memorized just because I use them all the time. But there are guides and like spreadsheets and just things online that you can look at real quick to see how to craft something if you really don't remember. So none of that's a big deal. Anyway, that's our episode for today, and I will go ahead and log off here and try and fix my mouse. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and I look forward to our next lesson here at Minecraft Academy. So, take care, guys, and as always, I will talk at you later.